That's nice. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the East Elgin Community Complex Board of February 26th. We have regrets from member Oslach and member Harbour. Before we begin, I want to have Owen explain the coffee pot in the middle of the room.
So this device is called an owl. It has a microphone and a 360 camera. So we are streaming tonight's meeting. We're just borrowing the device and seeing if it works. But we've tested it and believe it will. So it'll allow us to stream these meetings.
So the room is not great in terms of acoustics, but the microphone picks things up. I'm not great in terms of acoustics either, so speak up for the microphone and me. Thank you. Begin with confirmation of the agenda.
That the board adopts the agenda for the meeting of February 26, 2025 with the following additions. Item 4A, delegation from Sarah Sweeney, Public Education Coordinator with the Alzheimer's Society of Southwest Partners, related to report ECC 05-25. And item 4C, delegation from Tyler Desrosier regarding report ECC 01-25. And that report ECC 05-25 and report ECC 01 be reordered accordingly.
Thank you, mover and seconder. Member Sarna and member Desrosier. Comments? Changes? All those in favor? Carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Item 4, delegations and associated staff reports. We have first Sarah Sweeney, the Public Education Coordinator for the Alzheimer's Society Southwest Partners. Welcome, Ms. Sweeney. Is podium right there.
Can you hear me okay? Maybe. So good evening, everyone. Thanks to the board for allowing me to be here tonight. I'm Sarah Sweeney. I'm the program, or what am I? The Public Education Coordinator for the Alzheimer's Society Southwest Partners out of the Elgin office. So why I'm here tonight, a little background information. So right now there's close to 800,000 people living with dementia in Canada and locally. So that's Middlesex, Elgin, Oxford. There's almost 15,000 people living with dementia. That's not counting the people that haven't been diagnosed or gone to the doctor yet. And it also doesn't include the care partners and families that are caring for these individuals living with dementia. Unfortunately, by the end of 2030, we'll have over 1 million people in Canada living with dementia. So one of the initiatives that the Alzheimer's Society Southwest Partners uses to support our clients is to support the people and organizations that are providing services to these clients and their care partners in the communities. So by doing the dementia-friendly community education, we're bringing awareness about dementia and encouraging the inclusivity, welcoming, and supportive communities that was in the report that you have in front of you. So the Dementia Friendly Canada project has 3 main goals. So training Canada's workforce to be dementia-friendly. So the complex staff were trained in October of 2024. A second goal is educating the general public about dementia. So I was very happy to be part of a luncheon program that was held, I think in this very room, back in December, talking about brain health, preventative tips, things that the seniors that were in the room could kind of work on and changing their lifestyle habits to reduce their risk by up to 40%. So we're trying to get to the younger population, but the seniors are such a willing group. So we're starting with the seniors. So. Another goal, achieving sustainability and ensuring growth of Dementia Friendly Canada initiative. So the ways that we're doing that in this area, our first thing that we're doing is going through first responders. So all of the EMS for Elgin County have been trained, including the community paramedicine team. It's called Finding Your Way, which is a first responder focused training for learning how to communicate, how to respond to someone who has dementia. We're also doing education with fire services. So we've done a lot in the central and west part of the county. I have a Malahide training session booked for March 11th, and also waiting to book the Elmer Fire Service. So And I'm also very lucky to be able to do Ontario Police College training. The cadets have mandated dementia training kind of embedded in their curriculum already. And I'm also doing it's a domestic abuse, elder abuse course with existing police officers, just to work on their communication, problem solving, interview tips. So a lot is going on with first responders, but we're also very involved with other groups, golf courses, retail, all kinds of other organizations across Elgin County. So another way to sustain and ensure growth. We offer the kind of annual touch points or kind of check-ins with the groups that we do education with. So one of the sectors that dementia-friendly education was designed for was specifically for recreation professionals, which made it very relevant for the staff at the complex. Videos and scenarios were specific to situations that naturally occur in recreation facilities. So for example, someone who can't use a debit machine when paying for something, or someone who just looks a little lost and needs some assistance from the staff. There's also an added value here at the complex because you're already doing age-friendly programming at the 55 plus connection club, lunch and learn. So you're already doing all of the things that we're trying to promote. You already have it in place here. So I'm very happy to provide this free education to the complex staff and partner with you on your existing seniors programming. So by providing support for staff, which includes potential enhanced training and education in the future, and for new hires, having our Alzheimer's Society resources for patrons that visit the complex available. The complex has already become dementia friendly. I hope that the East Elgin Community Complex endorses the Dementia Friendly Community Supporter Program and Partnership Agreement between the Alzheimer's Society Southwest Partners and the East Elgin Community Complex. Thank you for your time, and please let me know if you have any questions.
No. Thank you very much, Ms. Sweeney. Council, I say council, board. Members or not?
I have a question. You talk about Alzheimer's and then you talk about dementia. Are they the same thing?
So
Or are they
dementia,
different?
sorry, go ahead.
No, I just,
Yeah.
are they the same thing or are they different?
Yeah, dementia is like the umbrella term, so it's just like if you have, like I say, it says cars, Toyota, Honda, Ford, so Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. So like Lewy body, vascular, all kinds of different types of dementia, so Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. Yeah. Yeah, so those things.
Anyone else? Member Chapman?
Through your chair. I just want to say I'm so pleased that this program is happening. There are so many Alzheimer's patients that are out in the general public that people are unaware of, and when they get confused, it's very traumatic for them. So having people educated on how to deal with it is fantastic.
Anyone else? Thank you very much for that presentation. We have a resolution.
That the delegation of Sarah Sweeney, Public Education Coordinator from the Alzheimer's Society Southwest Partners regarding report ECC 05-25 be received as information.
Mover and seconder. Member Leach and member Barber. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, item B, Manager of Parks and Recreation, dealing with the Alzheimer's Society Dementia Friendly Community Supported resolution.
That report ECC 05-25 entitled Alzheimer's Society Dementia Friendly Community Supporters be received for information, and that staff be directed to execute a partnership agreement with the Alzheimer's Society regarding recognizing the ECC as a dementia friendly community supporter.
Mover and seconder. Member Rahi and member Chapman.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I'll try to do Sarah's presentation justice. I think she did a wonderful job. So hopefully my report has provided relevant information to the board. And really the report for the board this evening is a result of building community connections. In my role is trying to connect with community partners to strengthen the capacity of the knowledge base of our staff, maintain and promote inclusivity and accessibility to our visitors and patrons, while providing exceptional customer service. So the board should really be applauded for supporting such endeavors and the commitment to that. So thank you. As Sarah had mentioned, the Alzheimer's Society defines a dementia-friendly community as a place where people living with dementia and their care partners are welcomed, included, and supported. It's a community that pays attention to the social and physical needs of the person living with dementia. So as this is an important program, not just for the folks who are living with dementia, but also people who come to attend recreation activities or events with them. So trying to make sure that they're seeing the decal on the windows, knowing that they're in an inclusive environment may help alleviate some of that stress they may have coming into an environment. And a little bit of history, as Sarah shared, behind how this program came to the EECC, which is also included in my report, is Sarah had reached out with this amazing initiative as an opportunity for education, no-cost education, a wonderful opportunity that the education piece was very inclusive. So it was an hour and a half in-person training, and there was also a virtual option. So knowing that we run a 7-day operation, we have different shifts of folks in, some that are full-time, part-time, casual, and whatnot. Hard to get everybody in the same room at the same time. This hybrid training model was really inclusive, so all staff could participate. So we had many staff in person, and Sarah hosted a wonderful workshop that was really interactive. And then the balance of the staff performed their training virtually. So that was kind of wonderful. The goal of the program is 75% staff education, and we managed to hit 100%. And hopefully, as we onboard new staff, we can use that free training portal to share more education. So along with the training about what dementia is, how we can better our customer service in the building was also just a review of the built environment, the physical environment. So it's certainly not an assessment, not a critique to require us to spend money or invest capital repairs. Really just let's see what we're doing, celebrate the good things that we're doing, and keep in mind other opportunities that we may have that we weren't aware of before, so we can make continued improvement. And in having that tour around the facility with Sarah, it was really discussed that this building takes on many different life forms at different days, times. We could have tournaments, we could have galas. There could be very few people, so maintaining lower volumes. We could check the box some days, but realizing that it may not always fit the bill, but the results of the physical building review were very positive, and not noting any major deficiencies. It also helps further the agenda with becoming AODA compliant. So really being in line with those 5 key points of the EODA, 5 key areas there. So customer service, employment, information and communication, transportation, and public space, which are all the AODA standards. So this training really just enhances our commitment to AODA, in my opinion. So the opportunity that's before the board this evening is to just thank the Alzheimer's Society for the wonderful education, and we can kind of go on our way, or the agreement is basically in recognition of affixing the decal to the building and being recognized as a dementia-friendly community. So the next steps would be then, if the board wishes to enter into that agreement, which doesn't require any other commitments except for some awesome resources that we'll have ongoing, just to make sure our training is sustainable. We can have Sarah as a resource and her colleagues at Southwest Partners. We would arrange a formal presentation of the decal along with the side of the agreement. Thank you. At that time, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to help, or I have a helper here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Questions from members? Comments? Member Wilson.
Through you, Chair, is obviously great to have such resources for free, the price is right.
Right.
And, it's only gonna become more of an issue the older the population gets, so. It's, good to have staff in the facility, 100% rate, that's hard to believe. but Excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So great initiative. Happy to see that. So of course, the pragmatic part goes into, so what does compliance look like? So that you have a sticker and I come here expecting perhaps certain things and then they're not. It could be from staff response that should have been different, or maybe the physical environment. I pulled up the checklist is quite, comprehensive. And so how does that work? So could we be, like, I'm trying to assess the risk, but also managing expectations once we commit to that. So can you expand on how do we manage complaints? How do we manage even compliance? Do we get audited on a yearly basis? Enlighten me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that question, through you, Mr. Chair. Just like any training that we provide our staff, if we don't follow up with those regular check-ins, that knowledge will perish, right? So those expectations we set with staff will go away if we don't revisit it. The wonderful thing about this program is that it's baked right into the program that we sit with Sarah and set goals, and those goals are then reviewed in 6 months to make sure that we've made our commitment to reviewing that. So being that this is an ongoing training, we have our monthly staff meeting. So we've got standing agenda items, training, health and safety. So through different education, we make sure that it's relevant. I think there's always going to be those opportunities or those staff patron interactions that go well, and some that maybe go in a different direction or perceived in a different direction. But just making sure that we're keeping this information fresh with our staff, discussing, referring back to the resources, referring back to the scenarios that we spoke to in training, we can hopefully make that experience better. So when we speak about compliance, I think you mentioned Member Jaguar, just to circle back to that, it's not a hard and fast. There's massive consequences to an uncomfortable interaction, or if there's someone who's had a different experience here. It basically acknowledges staff have taken the training, have committed to setting goals, working towards those goals, whether that be ongoing staff education, staff training, which is one of the goals that we have set. And that we're cognizant and we recognize folks in the community. So when we are, putting a mat down, or if we have extension cords or something, we're being cognizant of that training. So folks, when they see that decal, know that it's not a punishable situation if a chair was left in an awkward situation, but we're going to do our best. We're going to be aware of doing our best. So we work, I think every day we need to make sure that we don't get complacent, that we work towards compliance in all regards of customer service, inclusive of this. So I hope that helps.
Member Leach.
Thank you, Chair. So you had mentioned that this is one component working toward AODA compliance.
Mhm.
And so how can you explain AODA compliance for those who might not know, and how this piece fits into that?
Sure. So thank you through you, Member Leach. So AODA compliance is the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. So our goal, we're very much approaching our goal to be for all places in Ontario to be 100% accessible and compliant. So that's the built environment, customer service, all those areas that I had mentioned. So I think whenever we do our best to educate our team, and this focusing on customer service and our physical environment, that just enhances our commitment to accessibility. If we were, and again, doing our best with our internal training, I think we do a great job of being inclusive, but finding those opportunities to enhance that, I think that furthers that agenda. So gives us another check in the right box.
Seeing no other comments or questions, I will call the question on the resolution. All those in favor of the resolution? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Item C, we have a delegation from Tyler Desrosiers regarding report 125 arcade games. Mr. Desrosiers.
Afternoon, everyone. So I'd like to start off saying these opinions are mine. They're not of my wife, as a counselor, as a member of this board, as a taxpayer of Elmer. I am entitled to opinions. I'm also representing a few members of the community that use the community center who have not been able to speak today. So, as a counselor's husband, I get complaints many times when I'm in the town and in the arena. I'm sure your spouses all say the same thing. Hey, this person complained about that too. I encourage people to bring up these issues to staff and to counselors, and I give them the names and emails and forward all that stuff on. Unfortunately, it seems that out of fear or a lack of commitment, we don't seem to get a message across. So I've been asked to bring up some issues. You know, my issue mainly lies with the status quo and performance of this community center. I was a young man when this was built, had high hopes for this community center. And it just hasn't panned out to what I thought, and many members of this community who have thought. I don't necessarily care about arcades specifically. I do care about opinions in this report and of staff and the community center being viewed as an arena that should only be catered to patrons of ice rinks. I've used Elmer's facility and it's in the community center, similar sized towns all across North America. I've noticed community centers, other community centers have a lot more to offer than this one. The statements in the report about non-primary users of the community center potentially disrupting the family atmosphere and causing loitering are unproductive, and I can't understand what value these opinions have. The report also states the arena would also need to be rezoned in order to add an arcade game or a hockey table. Added bureaucracy that I can only interpret as meant to discourage growth of this facility. If you want this community center to be an arena, change the name to East Elgin Community Arena. When this community center was built, I had high hopes for it. I just didn't think that it would turn out to be the type of facility that was just a barn with 2 ice pads. I'm using this community center with my son, friends and family, and years later, it hasn't grown into what patrons of this arena and Malahide and Elmer have hoped for. It hasn't, it's stagnant. For this and many other reasons, I encourage my wife to run for council, to understand what bureaucracy or roadblocks have interfered in developing the community center into a true vision of what the community had hoped for when it was built. Now that I have a clear picture of these issues, I can see why facilities such as the MAC, Malahide Athletic Center, are being built elsewhere. We can learn from this. I read reports like this and listen to the past meetings when businesses like karate are eager to be a part of this, but are discouraged. I also have solutions to my complaints. Developed from other community centers I've visited, opening up the community center to programming like karate and tiny tots tumbling, gymnastics that people travel to St. Thomas and Tillsonburg to go to. You know, turning this empty hall into a library would be a great idea. Building a park outside for children to use. You know, making an outdoor basketball and road hockey court. a dryland sports training facility in here that you could rent out to, you know, hockey, strength and conditioning camps. These are just some ideas I have. But again, if you want this arena to be an arena and not a community center, change the name. Change it to East Elgin Community Arena. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Board, questions, comments at this point? Going to have a report on this following. And we have a resolution.
With the delegation of Tyler Desrosier regarding report ECC 01-25 respecting arcade games be received for information.
Mover and seconder. Member Roddy and member Cerna. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. And next is item D for Director of Operations, a report on the arcade games. We have a resolution.
That report ECC 01-25 entitled arcade games be received for information.
Mover and seconder. Councilor Member Desrosiers and member Cerna.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Staff are presenting a report tonight to the board that suggests the arcade games might not fully align with the current operation and vision of the complex. There's a potential for some financial risk and some operational burden that maybe seem to outweigh the potential revenue. So that's the closed notes version. So I'll go into what I've discussed in the report. Firstly, as sort of outlined in the report, there will be added responsibility and work as a result of installing arcade games. These games will require supervision. There's no doubt. Staff aren't going to turn a blind eye to any abuse of the equipment, nor will staff, not intervene if we've asked to intervene about, bad behavior around the machines with what's happening. And to put that into context, groupthink does happen here at the complex with our kids. When our kids get together in a large group, they don't behave the way they do at home. Of all of the facilities that we operate, I probably sign more invoices for broken windows, broken mirrors, broken toilets here at the complex than I do anywhere else. We charge those back when we catch them, but groupthink does happen. You get a group of arcades. As a younger man, I've used arcades with my friends. It happens. I hate to say it, but it does do that. So it introduces something that you will see staff have to sort of monitor and supervise. If a hockey mom comes up to us and says, there's something going on with those arcade games, with the group of people over there, we're not going to say, well, that's not us. That's the arcade vendor. It's something that we're going to have to monitor and police. The other thing that staff have had experience on is with the prize and the trinkets that come out of the machines. I think even the kids know that there's really no inherent value to these stuffies. They get them out or whatever trinkets are in the machine. They start tossing them around until they toss one around and lose one. We're asked to go get it, or they just simply leave it behind. The parents don't really worry about it. Staff have fished them out of the urinals and the toilets if we can get them in time. If not, they just flush them. Those trinkets really aren't what the kids are after. They're after sort of playing the games there. Hopefully we can do that. Having said all that, I want to make sure that the board is aware these issues aren't insurmountable, for sure. Should the board decide to proceed with the installation of arcade and video games, staff can certainly work to mitigate, the impacts of these in the facility. And we can certainly issue an expression of interest, or we can find lease terms that are more favorable to the board. We can mitigate some of those things that you see in the contract that was prevented. So that was kind of the first part of my report. I know everybody's kind of worried about the second part, which is the greater concern for the board is the evaluation of the benefits of hosting arcade games, how it aligns with sort of the vision and the role of the complex in the community. So the board maybe I should say, it's sort of in staff's opinion, arcade and video games have the potential to impact the existing users at the facility. And it comes at the expense of their experience here at the facility. The board has always kind of carefully balanced the need for revenue around the social significance of the complex. The board has often, prioritized community over profits. Like, we subsidize free seniors programming. We do other programming at little or no cost. You do discounted ice rentals for schools and youth. So you have prioritized in the past the role of the complex and the vision over some of those other profit things. So I guess the intent of my of including that in my report is to suggest that the arcade games might seem trivial, a few arcade games, but you can see that these things are actually landing in official plans and other things. So the purpose of including those planning and zoning vision in my report is to suggest to the board that this decision may warrant sort of a higher level of scrutiny than just simply installing arcade games. It's where do you kind of want the vision of the complex? Now, the good news or the bad news, or depending on the way you look at it, is it's not staff's role to determine that. That's what you have to decide tonight. Debate that. That's why you got elected, is to determine the vision. I can't help you with that. Our role as staff will start tomorrow morning when you tell us what to do. So the only reason for including in that is to suggest that this issue may not be as simple as it looks, and you can see there's a lot going around arcades, and you need to sort of figure out where they fit into our model and where they fit into how this complex fits into its role in the community. So that's kind of why I've included them in there, to elevate the decision-making matrix, if you will.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Member Raleigh.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm not a big fan of arcades. Every time I walk anywhere with my kids and they want to go to them every time we go in. I'm not a huge fan. I would like to, I guess, kind of mimic what Mr. DeRozier said as far as, there could be some other options, but I don't think an arcade is what I would like to see here. That's my opinion. I do think that there is some other options of healthier games to play than an arcade, and I guess that's just my opinion on that. Thank you.
Member Whitner.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate your report, Rob. I mean, you cover a lot of points. I guess the problem I have is we don't really know what it's gonna look like. And would it be possible that the 3-month trial period is not gonna cost us anything? At the end of the 3 months or whatever, we would know what we got. If we don't like it, it's out the door. But we can say it's not healthy lifestyle, but I mean, let's face it, everybody's on their phones all the time anyway, so. I would really support trying it for a 3-month trial and starting probably when the busy season starts in September or whatever. And see how it goes from there. If it doesn't work, we're not out anything, and you know what we got. Thank you.
Member Chapman.
So, through you, Chair, I was asked to read something for Member Barber, if that's okay with the board. He's unable to make it because he has his wife at the emergency.
Go ahead.
So this is from Pete himself. The process to have the arcade matter before the board has not been transparent. A strength that this board has used several times to determine process. A board member has pursued a thought to add a program, gone out of on their own, and soul searched the supplier and had the topic added to the agenda. At minimum, the value of the arcade aside, an RFP or expression of interest should be prepared and presented at a future meeting of the board. That is from Pete. Can I be allowed to speak for myself? As myself, I have spoken to many, many people since this report came out and asked their opinion of an arcade at this facility. And not one of them thought it was a good idea. Different parents have different perspectives, but our perspective is So first of all, I belong to two boards that are trying to prevent addictions in our youth. Arcades are known to be addictive. So we're asking to put something into a facility that is meant to prevent addictions, to get them interested in other things. And we're asking to introduce something that's addictive. To me, that's a contradiction of what this facility should be. The people that I've spoken with definitely agree, including members that I spoke to just out in the lobby before this meeting. So if you're asking for my opinion on an arcade, I am dead set against it.
Member Jiguer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, actually like all of the contributions so far, because there are a few things, music to my ears when I read a report and I read mention of vision, mention of a strategic plan, mention of solutions. We need solutions, we need revitalizations, and I think everybody's right. The one thing though that I don't like is a piecemeal approach when we're talking about revitalization. I think that if it were me, that's why I'm saying, like, I kind of technically agree with everybody, because I would take this idea and put it in the bank of many other ideas. We're on the verge of, I hope, getting a new agreement, which will mean a new governance model, which will mean a new board, which should also mean, we think the new board, what is being discussed is the new board having community members and therefore community input. So then you follow that, a new board with community members should be, that means a brand new strategic plan for this facility, because I think it's been it's been at least 6 years, because I don't remember as a board member ever working on a strategic plan for this facility. So new strategic plan, new goals, new vision. Then, based on that, you open up your bank of ideas and solutions, including arcade, including many other things that have come up in the past few years. So I would say, great for bringing that up. Let's put this in the bank of idea. Let's follow the process, and we may be looking at September. Do you know what I mean? Like, so we're not too far. But I think doing it in that sort of systematic process might get us where we want to be, and not in a piecemeal fashion.
Member Thurman?
Thank you, Chair. We talk about arcades and all that stuff. That's just a small part of it. Kids nowadays, they have tablets, they have cell phones, and I see it all the time. When you walk down the street or you drive down the street, you almost run them over because they don't watch where they're going. They walk like this because they're playing games. And you watch the games they play. I have grandkids, I watch the crap they play. And that's exactly what it is. So I don't believe that some of the stuff I'm hearing tonight, that people are all worried about what they're doing because they don't know exactly what they're doing. And it's not an arcade game that's gonna be addictive. They're addicted to cell phones and tablets. So I agree with Councillor Whitner that we should give it a try. Because it's not gonna hurt anything, it's not gonna change anything. And there's a lot worse things out there than an arcade game. And I think, you know, we're talking about bleeding money here. And if we can make a dime, we better not turn our nose up at it. And I think there's a lot worse things out there than an arcade game. And I think we should seriously, like Councillor Jiguer said, put it in the bank. We missed our opportunity now because it's been since last, God knows when, September, October. But let's look at it seriously come September and let's get the ball rolling here and see what can come about. Because it's time we started doing something to make money, because we're going to talk about fixing the roof or something and a lot of money, fixing a parking lot for a lot of money, and we can't say no to something that might make us some money. So let's start looking with vision. Thank you.
Member Disrozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering if we could get that statement reread from member Barber.
What purpose?
There was a mention of a member which was directed towards me, and I would like clarification as to what was said again. So if you could please reread it, that'd be great.
Okay.
The process to have the arcade matter before the board has not been transparent. A strength of this board has used several times to determine process. A board member has pursued a thought to add the program, gone out on their own and sole search a supplier and had the topic added to the agenda. At minimum, the value of an arcade aside, an RFP or expression of interest should be prepared and presented at a future meeting of the board.
May I comment to that?
Certainly.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to agree with the stance that an RFP process should be pursued. If it's something that this board is interested in pursuing, regardless of what time, yes, we need to have a transparent and fair process for it. So I do agree that there should be an RFP process. As far as saying that a member of this board has, determined the process of that and had a topic added to the agenda, that wasn't happening. I saw this initiative at other arenas. I contacted them to say, hey, like, how successful is this? So specifically the Kamoka Center, as well as the Dorchester Arena, has this initiative. More expansive, but they have it. I asked how successful it was, the users, if they had any issues, and I also asked who supplied these machines to them. And I was given the information for a vendor out of London. I contacted them. I asked them, how much would it cost? What would be the role? What would be the onus responsibility? Not to take on or overstep process, but to ensure that if I was bringing something to this board, it was worth our time. I'm not going to bring something to the board that is going to cost us money, is going to be wasteful, is going to be disruptive. Like, I'm not interested in wasting our time. So that is why I spoke to them. I wasn't trying to overstep process. As far as had the topic added to the agenda, that was the board's decision. I brought it to the board and the board agreed to have staff look at it. I didn't head the agenda, so thank you very much, but it was not me, it was the board.
This isn't mine, so don't be accusing me.
I'm not saying, I'm saying, I read your direct message and I'm responding to that message.
Yeah,
It's not factual,
I think
so I've made that clear, thank you. As far as the concerns I have with this report specifically, I agree with member Widner, with member Cerna, with member Jaguar that as far as like priorities go, this isn't the top of my priorities, is to put an arcade, games in here. There's many other things that I would love to see the facility do, but we've had that, the narrative that, we don't have the costs or we don't have the funding to do these initiatives. So I found this arcade game proposal. It was a no cost, potentially revenue generating solution. And I just brought it to this board for consideration. What decision the board makes with that, I respect that. I don't have a passion for arcade games. I have to be here. I'm just trying to offer solutions to a board that's looking for solutions. And I think the other concerns that I had and that I actually circulated an email regarding is that in order for this board to make informed and effective decisions, we need to have transparent and fact-based information. So when we receive reports that are based on inaccuracies and hypotheticals, it doesn't help this board at all. So that was the other concern that I raised. It wasn't directed at any specific staff member. It wasn't anything personal. It was that when we receive a report as a board, it needs to be fact-based. And if they don't have the facts, that's fine too. There needs to be a transparent discussion that staff requires to look into this more. We think there should be an RFP, et cetera. But just putting out hypotheticals and putting out complete inaccurate information doesn't support this board's decision-making at all. So that was the other concern that I had. But like I said, I agree with member Jaguar. I agree with member Widner. I definitely don't agree with member Chapman that I think arcade games are addictive and will lead to drug use. I'm sorry, I don't think that.
I did
But
not.
I appreciate, excuse me, point of privilege, I'm speaking. I appreciate those comments being made, but I would have to respectfully disagree. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well,
Just because the Dorchester Arena was mentioned, that is a lease space. If you've been up there, it has its own separate room. The Dorchester Arena, and it's a lease space. The community center themselves do not have the arcade games. So it's on the far end of the building, away from the arenas. If you've ever been to this lobby, when it's busy, the vendors or whoever's hosting tournaments, it is full up there. So I think that's probably the reason they put it in a room, an arcade game, is I think we've all been to an arcade. It is lousy, loud, and noisy. So that's kind of why it's there. So just to clarify that the Dorchester Arena themselves don't host the arcade games, they lease the space. And that would be sort of what I suggested in my report, is you could build, if you wanted to build a room for arcades, there's a whole different model. You could build a room, have an arcade facility away from everybody else as well. There are other successful initiatives around, for sure.
Member Robbie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess it's kind of, for me, I'm back and forth on it, because I'm just picturing walking into a building with my kids. I'm like, I don't want to waste $5 on that. Right? So that's my problem. Like, I don't want, because I know that whatever they're gonna buy, I go to the dollar store and buy it. If there was a cent store, I could buy it for a cent. That's my thing. I'm Dutch. It's not my fault. That's just the way it is. But it would be nice to generate, more revenue in this building. That is for sure. But it would also be nice to have more things to do. I just wish that it was, that thing didn't, every time I walked in, you're costing $5 for a rubber hose. Word.
Okay,
what I would like is, if we do happen to do it, I would like to, I think with what board member Winder said was like a pilot project or a 3-month trial. I think that would be a good way to try it if it's something that we do decide doing. I would recommend or suggest that. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be very brief. I know we're talking specifically about arcades here. And I agree with a lot of the points that are made. I'm not opposed to arcades. I take my kids to the arcades in London. I just think that we should look into whether this is the right spot or if we're doing it the right way. I've spent a lot of time here, as most of you know, and I've seen some of the concerns that are in the staff report regarding what happens on the top floor with the big signs that say no hockey. And there's balls and other things being thrown all over the place, kids hanging off railings. So I can just imagine what will happen when you put arcades in the mix with that. So I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. I'm just saying, is it the right place? Is it the right time? Based on what we're in the process of doing. Is it something that, we do put into a box and maybe we come back and look at it later? Then that's my 2 cents on it.
okay, I think I'm going to make a comment or two, one comment, I guess, and that is that, and along with Member Giguère, I think we need to take a look at the larger picture of what this facility stands for and where we're going in terms of providing a vision and a strategic plan for this, and doing something right now as a kind of Band-Aid or as a kind of quick fix for something to do with it, I don't think is the right move. I think we should wait to see what our new structure is going to be, what our new board is going to be, what kinds of new, I guess, branding that we're going to look at for this facility. And I agree with Mr. Desrosiers that, this is just like an arena. It's nothing more than an arena right now. And we're trying to fix that. And part of fixing that is having an overall strategic plan to do that. And I don't think that, having arcades right now, even on a trial basis right now, is the right thing to do. But I I'm hearing few people say, let's do it on a trial basis. I do remind you that the motion simply says that it be received as information. And I would suggest that we do that and bring it back at some future point. So, Member this Rosie.
Thank you, Member Chair. I just had someone from the audience has requested that there's been a lot of discussion about the current vision. Do we have actually the specifics of what the current vision outlines?
Absolutely not. I don't think. We're
We
working.
don't have one, so we're talking about the current vision, but we actually don't have one right now.
Mr. Chair, through you, just to say, so just from a procedure, I don't think members of the public can intervene during board discussion. At the discretion of the chair. So just so maybe that needs clarification, but what I would say is that, yes, I do believe there is a strategic plan that is dated. So using it now to make a decision, I don't think would be appropriate. So I think we need a new one to then decide which ideas will line up with the new strategic plan. The current one, it's not useful.
Member Leach, wanting to say something for a while back.
Thank you, Chair. Is there a timeline on the new board, new strategic plan in order to be able to make decisions that are going to be useful?
I don't think we have an exact timeline, but our working is as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Susie.
Hopefully Rob and I are simpatical here. Just a point of information through you, Mr. Chair. The mission and the vision of the ECC are both listed on the ECC website. And then there's a plaque that folks have probably recognized just about the administration offices too, that outlines the mission and the vision, sort of our guiding. And so I just wanted to make sure that we have that roadmap and it's out there to share if there's any public.
Member Cernan.
I have the copy of it. And some of it's relevant, and some of it isn't. One of it is,
Well, let's keep the relevant.
yeah, one of them is making money so with the both municipalities don't have to pay a lot. So that's not quite the vision we're after. The other thing is, the new vision, we have to keep in mind that this board made a motion about a library. So the new vision is gonna be kind of convoluted because this board has said,
Yeah,
the new library's here. So I'm just reminding you that's gotta come into play as well.
It may or may not, so.
And with the new library with arcade games.
Okay, unless there is a motion to do something other than what this amendment to do some in addition to receiving for information, I will move ahead with the vote. Do we have a motion, Mr. Councilor Whitner? Member Whitner.
One more name, Tommy Jack? Yeah, I could put a motion to that. Maybe come September we try this. I mean, I can appreciate the strategic plan and all that stuff, but it's just a small ask. And as far as the noise, put a volume knob on it and keep it down. We can control what we want. If we don't get what we want, then we things out of here. But maybe come September, I'd say we try it on a trial basis. I don't know if we'll have our strategic plan done or not, but it's not a big ask. We're not spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's a free.
So your motion or your amendment
September,
would be
we'll try the trial basis starting in September.
a trial basis starting in September.
Is that our busy season? Rob, would you tell us?
Well, before we go any further with this, we need a seconder to put it on the table.
Do we need to vote on there's already a.
There's a motion. This is an amendment to the motion.
Oh, I see.
Seconded by Member Leach. Okay, we have an amendment on the floor then, or the amendment will read something like, we start a trial basis on the arcade. However, it really shouldn't be worded that way because we don't have any process to go ahead and do this. I mean, the process really basically is that staff go issue an EUI or an RFP or something like that. So you're gonna say that we issue an EUI, make it simple, right? Is
Yeah.
EUI, okay, issue an EUI in September. Is that okay?
That's for information.
Yeah, that's,
Expression of interest.
expression of interest, right? Okay, fine, is that fine with them? Great, so we now have that moved and seconded. Everybody clear on what we're talking about?
You said that.
Okay. I know, I see you waiting.
Sorry. Be over here. Sorry, just to clarify, we're putting the express EOI out in September, or would we be asking staff to do it like earlier than September to have an answer back to this board, then for the board to make a decision? Like, how does it, like, doing it in September, we could be getting something back in February again.
I was hearing that we do it in September, we put out the EOI in September.
No, it's not in September. I want it to be, so we could have the air gate by September. So this could be put out over the summer.
So you're going to be asking that we do the EOI now. The staff be directed to.
Yes.
Put, whatever the word is, put out an EOI. Anyway. And however long that takes to get an answer, it might be September, it might be longer. Okay. Okay. Any further discussion on it? Okay. So can we have a reading of the? Can we have a reading of the amendment?
Could I have a clarification that it's that this is just a trial when it does come in? Yeah.
That was part of your original comment, was that
For
the,
4 months.
that the, that the EOI would stipulate 3 months. Okay. Are we from,
Yeah, so any information that the board can give us that we could include in the expression of interest would be helpful. So if you want the expression of interest for 3 months, 4 months for a vendor, I think we likely to negotiate better terms if everybody kind of knows what we're negotiating for. If you're looking for a 3-month term with the potential for a 1-year lease, or you're looking to rent, how much square footage do you want to put down? Are you offering up the lobby upstairs? How much money do we want to make? Number of machines would help us drafting the expression of interest for sure. I mentioned that because there's been some discussion that staff have, delayed this report. This is not in fact the case. We've got it here as quickly as we can. When I prioritize, you can see the amount of work that we have on the agenda with the capital going on. We've solicited help from our partners to get our capital work out the door. We worked hard to get the roof tender out in a timely fashion with the board's permission. We timed the market great on that, saved $100,000. So I'm confident our staff is prioritizing this work appropriately. Just want to make that, I think the revenue from 3 or 4 machines was low priority for us. And I think we did the right thing by getting this to the board as soon as we could. Came before the board, I think in November. But we've been busy doing other things. And if you want us to prioritize an EOI, more details you could give us here tonight would certainly assist us in writing that expression of interest.
okay. I think, member of Rosie was first and then member Beach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, just the discussions that I had with that specific vendor, we don't have to go with them, but they were in here looking at the facility. And from their perspective, the best location to host a couple games would be the little cubby in the main lobby here where we used to have massage chairs.
Can I stop you there? I don't think we should be talking about a specific,
He asked for a
person.
location.
well, he's asked for some specifics on what you kind of wanted, but I don't think we should be talking about a specific vendor.
No, I'm just giving what was relayed to me from that vendor about a location. So what the board chooses to do with that information is up to the board.
Of course,
So it's a suggestion.
it's information from one vendor, but
Okay, well, regardless,
Speed
it's still
of
information
general.
I would like to propose. So point of privilege, I would like Emma to speak.
sure.
That cubby, because there's already all the hydro hookups there, because when this facility was initially designed, that specific cubby was designed for vending machines and things as such. So there's ample hydro already available in there. They're recessed, if you recess like the current vending machine that's there, so it's not in immediate foot traffic or causing any type of impediment as far as egress goes. So I would suggest that that be a consideration for location, would be that little cutout that's literally right in front of the store here. And as far as how many, like, I don't, again, it's not something I'm super passionate about. I think a couple, like two, I don't know, see what the board thinks, but those are my two recommendations.
Member Roger mentioned hydro, that area is metered separately, the board would then be offering free hydro, is that correct?
What do we do for our current, like candy machine?
It's not metered separately, those, so that would be a lease space, so if you'd like to offer the hydro separately. And
Again, it's up to the board. I would assume we would mirror the contract similar to what we do with the, like, what is the contract with the vending machines? We share profits?
I'm sure profits for the vending machine, that's before we had a concession provider and it's offered sort of the
Yeah.
service.
Again, it's up to the board, but.
Member Leach.
Thank you, Chair. I would, as a trial, just a couple of machines, just something to test see if it works, if it's a good fit, if it is, something that, the foot traffic through here actually appreciates having, and whether or not it's a good fit for staff in terms of noise, monitoring, etc. We're not looking to create a full arcade, we're looking for just a taste.
I think once we start looking at this, we realize all of the factors that have to be considered in order to put out an EOI or for an RFP. I'm wondering if it's wise to have another staff report on suggesting the wording of the EOI and bring that back to the board rather than try to include everything in an amendment. Because I'm sure we can't think of everything that this would involve if we're going to go ahead with that. I would like to see the staff bring back a report on here's an option, or here's two options about putting the arcades in. Now that we seem to be in, well, we haven't voted on this yet, but we seem to be in some kind of agreement that maybe we should try this. I don't know.
Sorry.
That sound like a feasible thing, Rob?
Yeah, that's certainly what we're doing now with our tenders, as Jason can attest to, he's right here today running by the scope of the actual parking lot, so we would do that as we have been with all of our tenders. I just look for as much direction as I can. We'll turn around an EOI if it's approved tonight or the next meeting for the board's review based on 2 or 3 machines in the lobby, offering up some minor free stuff, hydro or whatever, and see what kind of interest we get.
So you think you have enough information right now?
I think so.
Okay. Member Shannon.
I was just gonna say, on these machines, if you're splitting the profits or something like that, why would you charge hydro if you're splitting the profits? Or if it's a 25-75 thing, they're taking 25% of the profits and giving you 75, why would you be charging hydro? I mean, these are things that you put in the RFP or PDF or IOU thing, whatever you call it. Why would you turn around and charge hydro?
Rob, you were gonna answer that? No?
I would, that would be part of the vendor's proposal. It would leave it all on the table. Let them come back with what they want.
Okay, anyone else? I'm not sure what kind of a amendment we have. Hold on, we're going to some time to weird crap.
Neither is on.
I'd suggest that the main motion be amended with the addition of that the ECC board directs staff to issue an EOI or September implementation of arcade games, and that the ECC board provided verbal direction to staff on the contents of the EOI.
Okay, good. All right, so I will call the question on the amendment. All those in favor?
Can I ask for a recorded vote, please?
Sure. We're doing a recorded vote on the amendment.
Councilor Disgrosia.
Yes.
Counselor Chap,
No.
Member Barber.
Yes.
Member Rahe,
Yes.
Member Leach,
Yes.
Member Wilson,
Yes.
Member Cerner,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Whitner,
Yes.
Co-Chair Jager,
Yes.
Co-Chair Mayor Cooker.
Yes,
Motion is carried.
right. So now to follow proper procedure, we vote on the motion as amended. Did you want to record a vote on the motion as amended as well? No. Okay. Do you want that? Yeah.
That report EECC 01-25 entitled Arcade Games be received for information, and that the EECC board directs staff to issue an EOI for September implementation of arcade games, and that the EECC board provided verbal direction to staff on the contents of the EOI.
All those in favor? Opposed? One opposed. Carried. Everything on the agenda? No. Next item is next item is 5, approval of previous minutes. So resolution.
That the minutes of the November 13th, 2024 regular meeting and the November 27th, 2024 special meeting of the EEC Board of Management be approved.
Mover and seconder, members Rosier and member Rahi. Questions? Member, did you?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, there's just a couple of typos and like member Leach's name. That's on the minutes, right?
We'll do that. Thank you.
Double check, thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Correspondence, item 6, correspondence requesting the approval of the complex budget from municipal partners. We have the resolution.
That the correspondence be received as information.
Mover and seconder. Member Jager and member Leach. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 7, action items, staff reports, Director of Public Works, the parking lot resurfacing. We have a resolution.
That staff report EECC 08-24 be received for information, -25. And that the EECC board directs Malahide staff to proceed with the work described within the report to issue a tender for full reconstruction of the parking lot utilizing the pavement structure recommended by EXP for the completion of Lot A, Lot B, and the entrance, with Lot C and the ring road to be included as provisional items to the tender, only to be completed if sufficient budget is available based on received tender results, and deferring pipe repairs on stormwater sewer systems to a future capital budget.
Mover and seconder. Members Rosier and member Widner. So I think we have Mr. Guggy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. You have a 78-page report in front of you that Owen just summarized very nicely with that resolution. Essentially, as you are all aware, the board had requested some assistance along with Town Dollar from Malahide to help with some project management of this parking lot job. So as our first step, we did some borehole analysis of the existing parking lot. In total, we had 20 boreholes drilled at various locations through there, just so you get an idea of what is going on underground and why this pavement has deteriorated so quickly. For reference, on page 36 of your agenda is the borehole map. In addition to that borehole work, the geotechnical experts were to provide us with a recommended pavement structure for the use of this facility. That is included within their report. Essentially what they found is, something that, you know, had come up anecdotally, that they figured that the parking lot probably had not been properly prepared when the building was originally constructed. The geotechnical report seems to confirm that suspicion. Essentially, it's a base of granular B, which just adds some asphalt rolled out on top of it. So in their expert advice, they have recommended that we do a full reconstruction of the parking lot, which will include removal of all the existing asphalt, some of the sub base, and then the preparation of a proper parking lot bed, base course asphalt, top lift asphalt, as suggested within the report. I don't recall which page it was on, but essentially we're doing a full rip out and rebuild, including the addition of some additional sub drains that also aren't there. One of the things that was identified is that the base is rather damp, which will also lead to premature shifting and settling and can cause that surface pavement to fail. So it is our recommendation to the board that our recommendation being staff Malahide in agreement with the town of Elmer staff, that we do proceed with a full reconstruction of this parking lot as recommended by the XP. The advantage to that over just paving over is that we have a lot more confidence in the life expectancy of the parking lot to meet our expectations. On that note, I would say that EXP's report did provide a second option of the far cheaper method of just peeling off the asphalt and placing it down again. Being geotechnical experts, they do not recommend that, neither do staff. Ultimately, that is one of the items we're looking for direction from the board on. The other piece to this was we had some CCTV work done of the underground pipes within the parking lot. Make sure there was no issues with any of the sanitary sewers or storm sewers within the lot before we put fresh pavement on. Sanitary sewers came back all good, so we had no concerns. There were a few minor defects identified within the storm sewer system. None of them are critical at this point or have been deemed to be critical. They could all be repaired with trenchless technology in the future, or they could be incorporated within the tender document as another provisional item, or we can do it as time and material to dig these pipes up and repair them at the time that we've got everything else dug up. It is not recommended by staff to go that route at this point, just because we know we're up against a tight budget. There's a lot of pavement out there, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So knowing that we can defer that work, but it's not really posing a threat to the underground infrastructure at this point, we are recommending that we just defer that later, take care of the trenchless technology sometime in the future. So on further commentary on the budget side of things, we did take some review of similar tenders from, that was actually from Norfolk County and from the County of Elgin. We had recently done some parking lot projects. We compared that with some of our own numbers that our manager of roads and construction had prepared, just based on our experience in building roads and doing paving jobs. And based on those numbers, we're basically looking at our current approved budget of $893,613 is going to be tight. It's hard to say what market's gonna get. You don't know what the asphalt index is doing, so it's really not easy to just say, yes, we can get this all within budget, which is why we have added the provision that it is our suggestion to look at the overall site map on page 104. It gives you the good visual reference that we would proceed to issue the tender for the entrance, or lot A and lot B. And then include lot C and the ring road around the building as provisional items. That way, if we do not get favorable tender results, we at least have the option to opt out of those portions of work and perhaps defer it to a later date. So with that, I think I kind of covered everything off as what we're looking at as a tender. The only other items that we are still waiting on a bit of direction from, and that these are not critical at the moment today, but would be to have the understanding as to whether or not the rooftop units that are gonna be replaced and the roof work that's gonna be done in this facility is gonna require cranes. We don't want to put down fresh pavement and drive like, a 65-ton crane across this. So, in the event that these projects could have a timing conflict, we would suggest that the work be deferred. We can prepare the tender and keep everything shelf ready and maybe not issue it until the lab work's at least done, or we have confirmation that they don't need to be bringing in cranes or whatever to access the top of the building. The one other item is that we would just work with Ms. Ray here to get an idea of what the best kind of shutdown time would be to have minimal impact on any of the ongoing operations here. It will be significantly disruptive, especially with the entrance. I mean, the reality is there's not a secondary entrance into this site. There's kind of the emergency one through the subdivision. I'm not suggesting that we use it, but it is there. So there will take some coordination between Malahide and Elmer, which I don't foresee there being any issues with. And the final thing would just be relating to getting insurances in place to make sure that all that, those kind of legalities are covered for the board and for the two member municipalities. So with that, if there's any other specific questions or concerns, I would gladly discuss them right now.
Okay, thank you. Member Roy.
Thank you, through Mr. Chair to Jason.
Yeah.
Jason. So basically, obviously, it's quite apparent that if we don't have a good base, I've put in some field driveways, but never parking lot like that. If you don't have a good base, they go to crap.
Yeah.
But lot A, lot B, and the entrance and the roadway is definitely the most used.
Yeah.
How bad of a thing would it be to do the cheaper option on the lot C at some point, just the mill and put it back down? Like, would that be an option to just buy us some time until we could do it right, or is it just throwing money away? Like, would you get 5 years, 10 years, 20, 15, 7, 1?
It's a great question. I think all those numbers are probably correct.
Yes.
It's really hard to say. I mean, that lot has got, what, 20 years out of it now, because there's been minimal history of work done on that other lot, correct? It doesn't see the same amount of traffic as everything else. It could be something looked at. I mean, we could ask for pricing just to do a top lift of C. That's easy. That's one of the nice things I like about provisional items in some tenders. You can kind of kick the tires a little bit on that if they give you a good price. Maybe we could bring it back and say, hey, for 50 grand, and if it buys us a decade and it's 50 instead of 250, and at least it's good for conversation. I don't disagree with that. I would have a real hard time to put a hard number on that to say, I think it'll get us 10 years, I would hope. But unfortunately, I don't really have that level of knowledge as to what's gonna exactly happen underground there.
Yeah, I agree. And I just, if we could do the higher, do it right, probably should have been the first time, but do it right on that portion, and then maybe on lot C, if there was enough left over, rather than not doing it and pushing it off,
Right.
maybe that could buy us, if someone could give us a rough idea at the time and be like, no, it's a complete waste of money, or, could be an option.
Rob?
Yeah, I would agree with, Jason. There's not been a lot of work done on it, so you could simply mill a lift off and then add it to an existing lift that's there. There's not much there to add to. You probably have to do a full removal out there and then regrade and do the asphalt. So the only disadvantage of that is you're gonna be in the same spot you are now. You might get 10 or 15 years out of it, but the proposal, the suggestion that Jason is making is the strength of the asphalt comes from the strength of the base, 110%. So the better you get the base, the better are you off. It is an option. I have seen it done where because a lot of this expense is going to be digging out all that old material, taking it off site, getting and bringing new stuff back in. There's issues with removing fill off site nowadays with transfer of material around. Can't take it off site. There's a whole bunch of challenges there. So if it for me, I'd probably try and get the whole thing done if you could.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately our hope is we can get that pricing, through the contract, but not be committed. None of us want to be coming back here, saying, okay, we put out a tender and it came in at $1 million when we need now $120,000 more dollars that I know we don't have. So that's why you can structure that bit of risk out of the tender by having those provisional items.
It's kind of, so the millions that come off of it all, is there anything that we can do with that on site, like as far as the lots that aren't, like that are gravel existing now, like could we use it to prep for the next stage of it? I hate digging out the stuff that's there. It's again, the Dutch is coming out and if there is 10 inches of decent gravel, it's gonna be, I'll take it.
I mean, I would definitely think we could explore if there's some perhaps shift that could be done back to the existing gravel part. Whether there's maybe a bit of room for expansion. I think quantity wise, we're probably gonna have a significant amount. We're gonna have to take a bunch off of site. If there is any other areas that it can be used on site, that is definitely an advantage to us. It hadn't really been explored. Right now, this is completely not looking at doing anything to that gravel lot that currently exists.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with Jason's proposal. I think it's the absolute best way to go. And I think the board will probably have some soul searching to do if a provisional item comes in on lot C. Because the price you're gonna get for provisional when it's grouped with that amount of work is gonna be much better than if you go separately down the line for just lot C. So it'd be interesting to see what these prices come back at as a large project versus you're much more doing lot C on its own later on down the road.
Yes, Member Whitner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So Jason, really applaud the work you did on this because we all kind of knew, well, I was here when they had put my hand up the building place. We all kind of knew at the time it wasn't the proper thing to do, but the funding structure forced it to be done.
Right.
And you can't pave over a field and expect it to last. It's not gonna happen. Your boreholes really brought up a lot of good points. The drains, I'm glad it's being looked at. You're doing it right. You've built roads for us. We know what you can do, and I'm sure this will be fine too. And the provisional thing, yeah, let's try that. I just have one dumb question, but if you put cement in the high traffic areas, in the main lane, is that a lot more money cement now as opposed to asphalt? I see a lot of cement driveways going in, so I'm gonna ask the question.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't really give you an accurate answer on. I can't think of the last time we ever quoted out for, a cement pad for a driving course. I don't know if you guys have any that you've done, Rob, or not, but, it is, for interest's sake, I mean, I can easily, talk to my man Ryan and we can run some numbers and see what we can come up with. Generally speaking, I think your cost per meter is usually more expensive. So, even with all the additional work, you're still gonna be back at the base. You're still gonna need your proper base preparations, proper drainage, all that stuff, with concrete. You might get, somewhat of a longer lifespan out of it, but at what cost, I'm not quite sure.
Just interested, that's all. Thank you.
Member DesRosiers, then Member Leach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank staff wholeheartedly, all staff, for the comprehensive investigation and report that's come to this board. I think it really outlines in detail the scope of the work, kind of where we went wrong, how we can move forward, and a long list of options for the board's consideration. So thank you to all staff for that. And also on the record, because I know I've had members call me out of this before, but I want on the record how appreciative I am to Malahide for the support on this project specifically. If you think of Malahide, you'll just think of the rural landscape, you think of the quality of roads. So the fact that we have the support from Malahide to ensure this project is done right and done fulsomely and done to the best integrity, I think it's amazing that we have both municipalities working together and ensuring this is done right. So thank you wholeheartedly to Malahide and to staff from Elmer and UCC for ensuring this is done properly. Thank you.
Member Leach.
Thank you, Chair. To you, Director Godwin. So the SEGI pipes in the subsurface infrastructure, to have those repaired at a later date, is that going to cause problems with our nice new asphalt? Or should that be relatively insignificant issue?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's a great question. I guess I did kind of glaze over that a little bit. Because we have manholes and manhole access and they're relatively short pieces, you know, two of the locations are right almost adjacent to the manhole itself. One is on, I think it's on a 7-meter section of pipe. Basically with trenchless technology and some of the slip lining that they can do, they do cured in place liners. So they basically, you blast a liner down, then you clean the pipe, blast a liner through there, they inflated it, seals to the outside walls, and now you basically have built a new pipe inside the existing one. So that'll take care of any issues with joint slippage or anything like that within the pipe network itself. The sags are not sufficient enough to cause any kind of blockages. Any kind of head pressure is going to keep those pipes flowing and flushed. And then just through regular maintenance going forward, the ECC and whoever's doing the maintenance of these catch basins and the storm sewer systems, just routine maintenance will keep that stuff running quite well, I think.
So when I think sag, I think accumulation of moisture. That's not going to be causing any problems with our surface level.
No, part of the additional work would be the addition of the sub drains within the rest of the network. So basically we'll tie, think of a perforated big O buried within some of that gravel just to capture all that additional groundwater that's floating under the surface and directing it into the storm system. And then the catch basins on top are collecting everything off the pavement and the curbs and everything and taking it down into that same network and shooting it away.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Very well, I call the question. All those in favor of the resolution? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. I think that marks 2 milestones. One is we're finally going to get a good parking lot pavement. And secondly, I believe this is the first time that the township of Malahide has done an RFP for the complex. So congratulations.
We look forward to working with you.
The item, where am I? Item 7B, correct? Yes, manager of Parks and Recreation, report on the handrails, resolution.
That report EECC 02-25 entitled Handrail Project Award be received for information, and that the project be deferred until such a time as it can be included as a capital budget item.
Mover and seconder. Member Ms. Rosier. We have a second member, Roddy.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, to the members. The purpose of this report before you all tonight is to present a proposal to the board for consideration. So as directed by the board, staff have issued an RFQ for the design, supply, and installation of handrails in both arenas. The RFQ was posted November 21st and received modest interest. One proposal was received and evaluated, another was submitted, but due to the irregularities just the bid was received, past the deadline, it had to be disqualified. So the scope of the project, did include the design, supply and installation of handrails that, and also the board had wished that we outline prices, be proposed for powder coated steel, stainless and galvanized steel as well. So the cost before you within the report tonight, as proposed by Welders Millwrights, is not inclusive of HST, so the prices there will all be subject to tax. So the prices before you are listed there within the report tonight. So at this point, the board has the option to select material and approve the proposal as presented. That would then trigger the bill within the scope, if this chooses to be awarded, then the vendor would return to the board with actual final design drawings to then be approved by the board before installation. So you'd have a chance to kind of see and exactly what would be installed. Or not to proceed with the project, I guess that's what before you tonight. So within the staff report, knowing that this is a very worthy, and staff do acknowledge a commitment to accessibility, hearing the board, hearing the public, this is a very worthy project. It is identified within the capital project, but you'll see the staff recommendation is that we don't recommend to award at this time. Not to say this isn't a worthy project to recommend, but for a few factors. When staff originally had reached out to local vendors to kind of get some pricing for the project, it came at a more palatable price that wasn't inclusive of installation or some engineering drawings. So we knew it would probably cost a little bit more. But given that this hasn't been identified as a capital expense, it is within the capital forecast for 2029. That might be a little further down the capital agenda than members would like to see. Staff are really encouraging the board to consider including this as a capital expense. Simply put, our building is aging, as we all recognize. It's not fun when it rains inside when we're anticipating a new roof, but we do have to make repairs, and our operational budget is very taxed with having to make sure that we're administering to our facility properly. So a hit to our operational budget of $22,000 would be pretty devastating. So the recommendation in the report is to, for your consideration tonight, is to consider either adding this, take it back to both respective member municipalities, adding this as a capital project, deferring this project to be considered in a subsequent capital project, or and perhaps we can revise the scope, reissue the award, and re-tender this project at a later date to perhaps solicit some more interest and perhaps some other interest as well. So, so with that, I will leave it to questions.
Questions, comment? Member Wilson.
Are there any ramifications to delaying this with the AODA for the 2025 mandates that we have?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, to member Wilson. No, not with regards to AODA. This would strictly be fiscal responsibility with our capital and operational budget.
Member Whitner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your Susie. How many rails are we looking at? Is it 1, 4, 3? I think 4.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it would be 4 sections, so 2 sections in either arenas.
Okay. So I struggle with this one because we're talking about the Alzheimer's and being, helping everybody out. This is a group of people using these handrails that really need them. And I can't see us not proceeding with this as soon as possible, because I know people will come to the complex because it's hard to go down. Everybody uses the rail when it's there. I mean, that's just the reality. Mothers with little kids, or not gonna say seniors, but I don't know. Talking about the Alzheimer's, I don't want to be accused of ageism because we're not helping out our older people, but everybody's gonna use the rail. I would certainly use the rail. I know Councilor Turner would use the rail. I know you say it's a lot of money, which it is, but I wouldn't want to put this off very long. If someone falls, it's gonna be on us.
So we have a member Serna and then member Rahi.
Through this chair, if somebody wipes out like I almost did when we were doing the tour, are we liable for that? Like if somebody trips, stumbles, and you can't, there's nothing to grab onto. Are we liable for that? It's somebody, yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Certainly, people, the best example I can use is people trip and fall on sidewalks, on the road all the time. It doesn't mean the municipality hasn't met their obligation and liability. So liability is if you haven't met your obligation or you're deficient in some way. This is where those were as constructed. I don't want to give the wrong impression. Staff are all in favor of these handrails. They weren't part of the budget. Based on the original figure, we were really hoping we can slide these into a maintenance budget. That's why we issued the request, because the board wanted to fast track this, even though it really wasn't part of the capital. Right. I don't very often recommend re-tendering to get a better price. You probably heard that very rarely happens. Very rarely happens. In this case, though, Susie and I suspect that we might be in a position where if we do that, we get a better price. We've only got one price on this. Was substantially higher than what we thought was coming in. We did get another price, but it was after the time limit, so can't open that. We could also maybe rescope this a little bit, which would allow us to do that. We could, rather than core them in, Susie and I have got some ideas that we could rescope the project a little bit, change it sufficiently enough to rescope it and reissue it, and hopefully still get it out. And as Susie said, you might want to tack this into a 2025 or 2026 capital budget. You might. It may be higher than we anticipate. I don't think it's going to be as high though. So we don't disagree with the handrails, but I think it's a bit pricey.
But we've identified that this could be a problem. And if we don't do anything about it and somebody wipes out, then somehow it's just like on a country road. If we do a road safety audit and we identify a problem, we don't fix it. Somebody goes off the road in that particular area, all of a sudden township becomes liable. Correct? Yes. Thank you. I'll answer for you.
It's a lot of money in that one, but yeah.
So I think the same situation would apply here. And now all of a sudden we're gonna spend $800,000 on a parking lot, almost $700,000 on a roof, and we're gonna chintz out on a $20,000 handrail and be liable for it. I don't think that mathematically makes sense to me. So I think we better push ahead here because I damn near wiped out there. And I'm to a point now after a stroke and an aneurysm, I do one step at a time, baby steps, because I can't take steps like I used to. When I go up or down, it doesn't matter, one step at a time. And I need something to grab onto. God help the girl in front of me too. Okay, so, and then I'm in trouble. So I'd rather have the town in trouble or the complex.
That was actually exactly what I was gonna ask. Now that we've kind of said, hey, we think we need handrails, if we say no, let's defer it, what happens if someone gets hurt? Because then we're like, hey, we need them, but no, we don't want to spend the money. Ideally, there would be another way that we could re-tender it, because you're over $5,000 a pop per section, right? If I pick a type of rail, I would definitely go with the extra $2,000 for the stainless. So, but it's too bad that there wasn't a way that we could, because that does seem pretty aggressive for what they are. If there was a way that we could rework it in a timely manner and get it back out without getting in trouble or getting, doing anything wrong, I think that would be a good solution.
And we'll just throw it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just listening to both perspectives, the perspective of staff, the perspective of members here, I would agree. And I would echo what Member Rocky is saying, that I think I agree with Member Cerna that it's something we shouldn't really procrastinate on. We should really kind of look into and expedite. As far as staff thinking, I agree, like, and other members have mentioned it, that it is a steep cost, and if staff feel confident that if we are able to tender it and get maybe more favorable costs, my question would be, what time can we expect? Like, what would be the time frame if we wanted to kind of push that forward? Like, what are we looking at time-wise to get that out there, get some back to the board to make a decision?
Anyone else? Members, you go.
I'm interested in the answer.
Yeah, well,
I know you're buying that time.
Are you coming up with a financial solution?
I'll take this one. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Member DeRoche. I think that's a great solution. We could certainly, we've got it scoped out. We can certainly refine that. We've talked about provisional items, today. If it's, the will of the board, we can certainly turn this around and have it re-scoped and presented to the board at the next meeting. Yeah, we'd be happy to do that.
Yes, thank you. So through you, Mr. Chair, yes, particularly because it happens to be tonight that we approved the agreement to be dementia friendly, and we have to be consistent. We can't say we're going to be friendly when it doesn't cost money. Again, so, or we're going to be inclusive as long as it doesn't cost too much money. So no, but I am interested in a rescoping, and if we can push it through for this year, like as soon as possible. I think that's the right thing to do, to align with our vision.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Similar to what staff have requested, and the board's provided great direction and clarified scope. If it's the will of the board this evening, perhaps we could, as Member Rahe had mentioned, one type of preferred material. If that's something that the board would have the appetite to discuss tonight, so we can further refine that scope. When it comes back to the board the next meeting, those decisions can be expedited, and then we can carry forward our commitment. That would be appreciated by staff. Any clear direction from the board to staff is greatly appreciated.
Member Whitner, providing further direction.
Just a question, when we put the pricing out, was this something on the internet or something that went to the town site and they picked it up, or did we approach any local welding shops like when Jason, when we get vehicles, we go out and see the dealerships and get them information. There's a lot of talent out there that we maybe could be tapping and get a better price.
Yeah, we dropped them off. Like we pushed this one out, this document out, we dropped them off at facilities.
Yeah. Directly contacted our local providers.
Only one interest.
Mhm.
That's too bad.
One
Needs to
was
get better.
Honestly.
If the, as Susie suggested, is everybody in favor of stainless steel? Can I just ask, can we narrow it down? I think back in the day, we weren't sure how much more stainless was gonna be.
Yeah, so is that the no slip stuff?
It's similar to what the handrails that you see on the staircase going up to the mezzanine level.
So I wanted the no slip stuff. You can't slide down a banister.
Slide down. Stay on.
Put some glue on it.
Super good.
I thought it would be quiet. So you got enough direction.
I think we're confident with rescoping and bringing it back to the board, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
So we need to change the resolution to project be referred back to staff. We don't need an amendment for that, I don't think. Okay. So we'll reword the resolution and vote on it. Yeah.
That report ECC 02-25 entitled Handrail Project Award be received for information. And that the project be referred back to staff for report at a future board meeting.
Okay, everyone. Call the question, we're referring it back to staff for another report. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Item D, Manager of Parks and Recreation, the tender award for the concession services first. Resolution.
That report ECC 03-25 entitled the ECC Concession Services be received for information.
Mover and seconder. Member Wilson and Member Rosier. Susie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the members. So the report before you tonight is an update to the board on the concession, the ECC concession services contract. I just want to make sure tonight that the board's recognized and appreciated for their efforts and assistance on securing a concession provider for the EDCC. We've had nothing but great feedback from the public and the concessionaire themselves. So just a refresher as to kind of how we got to where we are. Staff was directed to issue an EOI in September for concession services contract. We posted for a month, didn't receive any interest, so left the post open. Received an EOI early December, kind of pre-holiday. So again, I really want to extend heartfelt appreciation to the board from staff and the community at large for considering that EOI during the tight timeline coming up to the holiday season, and for lending support to have that contract with the concessionaire expedited. So that is wonderful. So just within the report, it does have the parameters of the EOI. The concessionaire remits $120 at the end of the month to the complex. So that's passive income for meeting a community service. So that's awesome for our visitors and our patrons. This current contract is from January until April, until our shoulder season starts. There is a provision in the contract for the concessionaire to operate June through August if there's large scale events, or should they wish to open up. Quite often we're busy for different camps or events and things like that. So there's a provision there as well. There's also a provision in the contract should the board be happy with the provision of services that would extend this contract again from September 2025 through the busy programming season till April 2026. So again, the concession has been operating consistently. I hope you've had a chance to visit Taylor and see all the hard work and maybe sample a product or two. The coffee is organic and it's lovely and it's delicious, as are many of the products there. But again, just wish to express heartfelt gratitude to the board for their support, and yeah, I'll entertain any questions if anyone has any.
Good news report, questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
I have a comment.
You have a comment?
If you don't mind, yeah.
All right.
I just wanted to thank the board for supporting this suggestion, because when we discussed this initially, I went to our stakeholders, Bad Girls, Spitfires, Almar Hockey Association to get their feedback. And the same with this, I've requested feedback as to how they are, if they're enjoying the services and things like that. And they are so happy. So the fact that our stakeholders are happy, our patrons are happy, this board is hopefully happy. I think it's a win-win situation. So just thank you very much to this board for supporting the suggestion.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. Item D, over a small item, the roof. Manager of Parks and Recreation, have a resolution.
That report ECC 0.04-25 entitled Tender Award East Elgin Community Complex Roof Report be received for information, and that the board accept the low bids submitted by Fesh Roofing Limited in the amount of $664,500, excluding HST, for the removal and replacement of 6 existing flat roof membranes and associated roofing materials as outlined in the Garland, Canada Incorporated Roof Report and in accordance with the tender documents, and that the board authorize the mayor and clerk of the town of Elmer to execute the documents.
Mover and seconder. Member Chapman and Member Beach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to the board. The report before you tonight summarizes, provides the outcome rather, the procurement process for the EECC roof replacement as approved in the capital budget. The scope of the replacement was informed by the property condition assessment and further condition report, as mentioned in the resolution, as well as a thermographic roof inspection. Competitive pricing was received through this tender process. All bids were found to be in compliance with no bid irregularities identified. As indicated in the report, LaFleche Roofing Limited was identified as the lowest bidder. Staff were satisfied with the references and pleased with the outcome of the procurement process. As noted in the financial impact section of the report, the low bid of $664,500 plus tax is below the estimated project cost of $701,500 and the capital budget amount of $826,500 set for the project, which includes repairs to the metal roof estimated at $125,000. This bid that we have received represents good value for the project and is recommended for award. If the board chooses to award this project, staff will work with Lesh to determine a project timeline, as the tentative start date indicated in the report of March 3rd is not an option, being that it's just being presented to the board at the meeting here in February. So with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
Comments, question, member Whitmer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good question. I've heard once there's some grants maybe could be tied to this. Is that still, did I hear something wrong, or is that something we're hoping for?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to member Winner, absolutely. This, the completion of the roof, is included in grant funding that we're anticipating. We were hoping to have word for before the recall for the election, hoping eagerly to hear of the award, and yes, that's included.
Okay, that's great. I have a follow-up if I could. I know at the time we talked about the coordination of the AC vents are gonna have to be, or the AC units are gonna have to be removed to this roof. And then they're gonna have to put that down and then take it up again and put, to me, that's not a way to do it. Is there any way we can coordinate the two? We're gonna be in March, we're not gonna use there anyway. Take them off and do whatever, but is there any way we can coordinate that to minimize damage and cost? It's not going to be traipsing around on a brand new roof, you got cranes coming again.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, that's, remember, we're only doing half of the HVAC, so at some point in the future, you're gonna have to do the other half on the new roof. We have had discussions with our HVAC people that won that tender, subject to the board awarding tonight. They're going to work with the roof installer, because the units have to be lifted off. The board included an amount on the roof to carry the removal of the HVAC and the reinstall. So what it looks like is going to happen now, the HVAC provider is going to work with the roof installer to take off the old units until the roof's done, and they'll be hired to put the new units on, plus re-hook up the old units that are up there too. So we're really hopeful that it can all be coordinated. We've had discussions to make sure that we don't become the general contractor, that one will hire the other one for that portion of the work. So subject to tonight, that would be the next step on these projects for sure.
Good common sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Member Leach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank staff for being diligent in ensuring that there's a timeline that works well for the whole project. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no one else, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Another milestone. You want to speak louder again? Speak louder. Another milestone, I said. Have I been speaking so quietly?
You're getting quieter.
I know. To get my school voice on. Item E, I think, right now, this is a manager question, the renewal of Simcoe resolution.
The report the ECC 06-25 entitled Contract Renewal 2025 Service Agreement with Simcoe Refrigeration. There's complete information. Board grants a 1-year renewal to the current service agreement with Simcoe Refrigeration reflective of the 2025 quoted price.
Mover and seconder. Member Serna and Member Wilson. And please,
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, to
I
members.
haven't done any reports tonight.
This is it, I promise. I'm almost out of water. This is all I get. So the report before the board is similar to one I brought to the board last year with regard to an annual service, refrigeration service contract agreement. Simcoe Refrigeration has provided the refrigeration service agreements for 2023 and 2024 for the facility. Staff have been happy with the work that they have, the recommendations they've provided, and maintenance and inspections that have been performed and subsequent follow-up. It's important to note that there are legislated pieces within inspections that need to be done. So having these service agreements in place ensures compliance with those legislated items that need to be reviewed. Helps those subject matter experts come in, check out a refrigeration plant, recommend repairs, and to help get us to our life cycle of these components of the refrigeration plant. It also locks in some labor and additional fees if we need to call folks to come in and we have an unexpected repair. It locks in those labor rates and the truck fees that are associated. So we found that the comprehensive inspections, the quarterly inspections that were performed were very helpful in the past. This is a very similar proposal that's being proposed this year with a marginal increase. It's under $120 difference between 2024 and what's proposed for 2025. Our current agreement expires the end of the month, so we're looking to implement this March 1, and which will extend a year to February 28, 2026. The reason the 1 year is being presented tonight is staff are very aware that the board has prioritized many capital repairs, all of which will come with independent service agreements required. We're hoping that once we complete some comprehensive capital projects, cooling tower, HVAC, things of that nature, that we may in the future be able to present or perhaps put out to tender requesting a bundled, more comprehensive service agreement where we can realize some efficiencies and some cost savings perhaps. But where we are right now, staff are recommending this is the best approach to make sure that we're managing our assets appropriately, efficiently, and in a timely manner.
Wonderful, thank you. Any questions, comments from members? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item 7.2, I think, yes. Are there any notices of motion? Member DeSrosa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I circulated a letter to the board and I was given direction from the chair to take that proposal and draft it into a notice of motion. So that's what this is. Whereas Cameron Reed, a talented young athlete from our community, has achieved significant accomplishments in the world of hockey. And whereas Cameron's accomplishments serve as an inspiration to our community and a role model for youth athletes. And whereas Cameron has been a proud member of various local hockey organizations, including the Elmer Minor Hockey Association, and has advanced to represent Canada at international levels. Now therefore be it resolved that the EECC Board of Management hereby acknowledges Cameron Reed's outstanding achievements in hockey. Be it further resolved that the EECC Board of Management approve the following. 1. Display of recognition. That the EECC Board of Management approve the purchase of a display frame for an autographed jersey from Cam Reed's current team, the OHL Kitchener Rangers. The Reed family has generously agreed to provide the jersey for free. 2. Event consideration, that the board directs staff to explore the possibility of organizing an event to honor Cam Reed's achievements, including a community skate event where Cam could interact with local residents, especially youth, and inspire the next generation of athletes. Be it finally resolved that the EECC Board of Management extends its heartfelt congratulations to Cameron Reed for his exceptional achievements and expresses pride in his success as a local athlete representing our community at the international stage. Thank you.
Thank you. That motion will appear at the next meeting. Item 8, inquiries by members. Seeing none, there is no closed session. Item 10, next meeting in the June. Next meeting will be the call of the chair. Do we have a date? Call of the chair at this point. Call of the chair. My seat be loud enough? You heard me? I never know. And German.
Let the board team now adjourn at 8:59 p.m.
We were in seconder. Member Cerna and Member Widner. All those in favor? All those opposed? None carried. Thank you.